Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. I often say of the modern constellations, in an era when everyone seems to be interested in integrated bracelet sports watches, we have a long-standing member of the club and a member in good standing. Consider the Constellation. It fits every term of the definition. Consider a fully integrated bracelet. We have 100-meter water resistance. We have a watch that is shock resistant, anti-magnetic, automatic winding, and yes, it's even fairly well loomed. So let's consider what the Omega Constellation Day-Date has to offer, and maybe, just maybe, you'll save yourself the cost of a Midwestern home over a Nautilus. So taking a look at this watch, it's easy to wear. 38 millimeters in diameter, but it's not petite. It's idiosyncratic like all watches that are not traditionally round. So let's throw it on the wrist because it's probably easier to explain that way. 38 millimeters in diameter, it is 13.9 millimeters thick and 44.8 millimeters from lug to lug. So now you see it on the wrist. This looks a lot bigger than a 38. And to be perfectly honest, it fits very comfortably, but the presence and the stance is of a larger watch. I'd feel more along the lines of 40 or 41, which is right in the sweet spot of where people like their integrated bracelet steel sports watches today. So it sits low enough that it will fit underneath the cuff. It's not a slim watch, not like a 5711 is slim, not like a 16202 is slim, but it's respectably so. And you can see that the side of the case is ramped, so a sleeve will run right up over the side of it. I'd recommend it for a wrist, honestly, as small as 14 centimeters circumference, because you can see how the bracelet flares out on either side of my wrist. Now, this bracelet can pull straight down out of the lugs. Do you know how many integrated bracelet sports watches don't do that? They have some sort of like flare where the most you can do is you pull the bracelet down like this and it still sticks out beyond the edge of the case on either side. Nope, here it pulls straight down. So if you have a very small wrist, this is going to work with you. Taking a look at the integration, it's super simple. Notice how you've got a pivot and a bit of a countersink between the end link and the case. That makes it seamless. It's a great look too, with a combination of horizontal polished intermediate links and satin finished primaries. It's got a little bit of a sort of vintage Piaget polo look to it. Bracelets like this have been part of the Connie lexicon for a long time, so perhaps the heritage element to which it refers is its own. The clasp is robust. Now, this is no snapshot clasp. It's got twin trigger release, so you got to press both of them for it to open up. And you can see, because of the way the bracelet is assembled, every single link can be removed for precise sizing. Taking a look, you can see that there are regular sized links, but there are also some intermediate sized links in there too, so you can fine tune the fit. And we've got a little gold medallion externally, reminding you that this is something very special indeed. Also, look at the bevel to the edge of each link, how it's rounded and softened like that. That is fantastic attention to detail. You'll see more of it on the case, where we have this lovely brushed and sort of soft faceted design. Although the crown is not a screw down, the watch is 100 meters water resistant, and we have the famous griffe or griffin claws. These have been characteristic of most constellations. The Globe Masters are a notable exception, but most constellations since 1982, when the so-called Manhattan design was first coined. Now, it became an absolute runaway hit in Asia, which is why for many years this was the look of the Constellation. The watches, however, offer versatility. It can be the ladies' dress watch you want it to be. It can be a dress watch on a strap. It can be an ultra thin. It can be gold. It can be two-tone. It can be steel. But on the other hand, it can also be full bracelet. It can also be a sports watch. And in the case of the double eagles, the Griffin Claw Constellation turned out to be a very aggressive sports watch. Well, this is somewhere between the dress watch and the sports watch, just like a Nautilus, just like a Royal Oak, just like something along the lines of a Piaget polo. So we have that high degree of water resistance and also luminescence. If you take a look at the dial, you can see, first of all, we have this outboard Roman numeral motif that allows the bezel to act as a scale for the time, but we also have indices inboard, and they have a fantastic wasp-waisted faceting where they're almost shrunken at their centers like a Coke bottle. Now, the edges are polished and the tops are satinated for a nice contrast. And then we have these hands, which include both satin and contrast for better visibility against a black dial base. Applique Omega logo and marquee with the Constellation script. Take a close look at this dial and you can see it features a very distinctive graining, unlike anything you'll really find on other Omega models. It's difficult to describe, so it's probably for the best that I'm just going to show you up close. By the way, that's just a little bit of glue right there. I'm going to show you up close the texture of this dial. It's almost like the grain of a chalkboard, but unique. Look at the attention to detail. Look at the counterweight of the seconds hand. Now we've got a little star at the bottom to remind us that the original Constellation of 1952 was an observatory chronometer, so observatory timing, thus eyes on the stars. We have a hacking seconds function, so you can stop the watch and set it to a reference time down to the second. And then we've got a quick set function, and because this is a day and a date, you've got a quick set for both the day and the date. You can rapidly cycle those. Turning it all over, we've got a caliber that is based on the 8500s, but it's the 8602, which is specific to the day-date version of the Constellation. Bidirectional winding, twin barrels, 60-hour power reserve, 39 joules. There's also a little bit of glue on the case back from a sticker. I apologize about that. We have blackened and polished screws, as well as arabesque Côte de Genève. The twin barrels, they give you a 60-hour reserve, yes, but also a very flat torque curve, so the watch is isochronous or an even timekeeper throughout most of its power reserve range. You can see 100 meters, water resistant, no lie there. A full balance bridge right here. Let's try to get that. Looks like we've gone out of focus. That's okay, I can... There we go. We've got a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance for shock resistance. And then we've got the SI14 silicone hairspring for anti-magnetism and the tri-level coaxial escapement, which swaps the sliding friction of a Swiss lever for the tangential friction of the coax. And of course, that was invented by George Daniels back in 1974, industrialized by Omega in 1999. And these 8500 series movements came out starting in 2007. And these latest movements really do realize the full potential of the coax, including, among other advantages, improved power reserve, reduced maintenance, and improved chronometry. And this watch is a COSC certified Swiss chronometer. So the movement, I should say, is a certified chronometer. So this movement has passed the exacting 5-position, multiple temperature, and isochronous testing of the COSC, which takes about 2 weeks, of course. Now, the movement also beats weight a quirky rate of 25,200 vibrations per hour, which is a rate you see on a lot of Swatch Group watches that use silicone hairsprings. So that's the explanation there. A fascinating way to sort of escape the rat race, own a hugely underrated integrated bracelet steel sports watch from a blue chip brand. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.